Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Two Rivers Tuesday. This is our podcast where we jump into the sermon and continue the conversation from Sunday, and we highlight fun things in the life of our church family. I'm here with John Teague. How are you this morning, John?
I am doing well, Maggie. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah? That sounds like I'm surprised. I'm surprised that I'm good, but I am good.
I'm not surprised. I'm just loving this season of life.
Okay.
In so many ways. This
Wow.
season outside, the weather.
Yeah.
Spring, loving just like where we're at in our stage of life. It's
Okay.
just sweet.
Praise God.
Yeah. How are you?
Well, I was reminding my girls this morning that this is the day the Lord has made, so you better freaking rejoice and be glad in
And
it.
you better like it.
No, it's like they've been on spring break for over a week, and they were out of school yesterday, and so they're going back for like the first time in what has felt like forever probably, and they spring braked hard. Like they got to do some stuff on spring break, and so they were less than thrilled to be going back to school today. And so I was like, can I pray for y'all before you leave? And I was praying that verse, this is the day the Lord has made, let's rejoice. But I joke, but I really did pray, because this is what we need to pray, I think, often. This is the day the Lord has made. Lord, will you help us rejoice and be glad in it? We need your help. We need your spirit, because left to our own devices, we're going to not rejoice, and we'll probably complain, and we won't be glad in it. And this is the day the Lord has made.
Yes, that's
He's got
great.
something for us.
Yeah, I love the how different your season of life is, because I took preschoolers back to preschool after preschool spring break, and I took one of them back and was like, she's kind of potty trained now. So I got to just give her teachers that gift of figuring that out today.
Yeah, it's gonna be a little harder.
Good luck.
It's not. Yep. Okay.
See you later.
Yes, fun season.
Yes. Oh yes. All right, what is something coming up in the life of our church family that you're looking forward to?
Oh, well, there's quite a few things. We're kicking off the Sixer this week, and I'm pretty excited about that. Just sitting with a room full of men and talking about how God has made us, and just the unique way that He's made us, unique calling on our lives, and also some unique things about us as men that we are susceptible to, and then how to fight off those things and flourish as men. That's what we're going to talk about for the next 6 weeks. I'm pretty excited about that.
That's the 25th at 6:30 at the ministry center.
I think that date is correct.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, great. That is going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to Good Friday. That's like coming up.
Man, it is coming
Yes.
up. Yeah.
I believe that's April 3rd. We'll have our Good Friday gathering at 5:30 at OES.
Yep.
And I'm looking forward to this. If you've been around for a few years, you probably remember when we did more of like an interactive stations Good Friday. And so we're bringing that back. People love that. And it's really sweet to walk through, regardless of stage of life. It's great to experience Good Friday in that way, but it's also really sweet to like walk your kids through that experience. So that's a special part of that. And we're this year offering childcare for babies 9 months to under 3, so that you can experience it a little less chaotically.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that. All right, you ready to talk about Sunday?
Let's do it.
All right, we were in Ecclesiastes 4. Give us like a little bit of a summary of what he's saying in Ecclesiastes 4.
He is saying this world is broken, and it's driving you toward isolation, and there's a better way, and that is to not live life alone, and instead to live life with one another. That is a gift from God, and it is not just a poetic kind of two are better than one. Let's read this, threefold chord passage at a wedding. This is how you survive.
Yes. Yeah, that's good. So let's talk about that isolation. What do you think it might feel like to be isolated, or what might be some signs that somebody might be like, oh, if these things are in my life, that might be some warning signs that I'm isolated or isolating.
Okay, so I don't know if this is going to get where you're wanting to go, but the first thing that came to my mind is when you're always right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
When you're always right, I would question if you've been testing any of those thoughts or ideas with anyone else around you.
Yeah.
You know, because and here's where I'm coming with that, or where I'm coming from. When I can do this. I can isolate into my own thoughts and my own frustrations, and then like my flesh, my fear, my insecurity, my frustration, my disappointment, all those things start to create a narrative in my mind. And I gotta tell you, I never lose those arguments. I'm always right. There's always a reason. There's always an excuse. And then whenever I share that with someone else, that there's a good chance that they're like, there might be another way to think about that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
So I think that's one example of like, you have isolated, and it might be that you're surrounded by people, but in this thing that's going on, you've isolated yourself, and you're always right.
Yeah. I think there's a way to think you're like checking the box of community, but you actually can be isolating some areas of your life, if that makes sense. Like, I think you can easily go through the motions and be like, okay, check, I went to life group, or like I hung out with friends.
Yep.
And you can do some of those good and right things, but still there's areas in your heart, maybe lies you're believing or burdens you're carrying, or even decisions that you're making that you think, well, this is something I am gonna just do by myself, or like people, I don't want to inconvenience someone with this, or that's none of their business, or like that's too far on the community thing. And so I just think that's a good warning to me and to all of us to be like, okay, where am I like checking the box for community, but still keeping this side of my life kind of isolated? Because I think you can almost do both at the same time.
Sure. Surely you can.
Yeah. And so one of those things that kind of is along the same lines of what you just said, but it's making decisions. Like, I think that a sign that you're isolated is if you make every big decision completely like isolated, independently. You think like, this is my decision to make, and you don't have the humility and the fellowship to like open up even those big decisions to letting the people who know you well weigh in on that. I think that's a beautiful, underrated aspect of community, is like inviting your people into decision making.
Yeah. I think another thing is when, and I don't know if this is answering your question or not, but when no one knows, then and there's something going on in your world and no one knows, like, that's isolation. Like, you have isolated.
Yes.
Maybe this situation has isolated you, because that happens. You know, just think about like, you get sick, and it keeps you in bed, and you've not been feeling well, and like your family's staying away from you because they don't want it to spread, and you know, that can feel very isolating, right? Like, so sometimes it's just the circumstances, I guess, what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
And then other times it's like, we don't want anyone to know. And when no one knows, that can be a very lonely place. And I don't think it's what we were made for.
Yes.
Look at Genesis, you know, and then look at what Solomon said in Ecclesiastes. You know, we need one another.
Yes.
We need to be known by one another.
Yeah. I think one more thing that comes to mind is, I've heard people saying they kind of know they're in an unhealthy place, or they know they're isolating when they stop initiating and reaching out to their friends. I just think like friendship, this deep fellowship, this like knowing, it will require spending time together. And that requires the work of making those plans, sending that text, like reaching out to ask for that time together. And so I think a sign that you're isolating is like, well, it's been 6 months since I did anything like that, or like I haven't spent one-on-one time with a friend in like years, or like I don't even know how to spend one-on-one time with a friend. Those are some signs. It's like, let's move toward that, like get some practice in of having real quality time with a deep friend. Okay, so what are some ways, you talked about how the world is isolating us. If we think of it in like 3 categories, the world, the flesh, and the devil, what might be some of the ways each of those 3 things are pushing us toward isolation?
So one way the world is pushing us that way is just how everything is available to us in our hand, you know, with our phone.
Yeah.
Wherever we are, we can just easily isolate. And that world has been carefully curated for you. It's based on all of your habits and all of your desires and all your wishes. It's like, this thing knows me, and it does.
Yeah.
But it's using you.
But
I think that's a way the world isolates us, is by getting us, why would we interact with someone, in line or in the waiting room, or, in our living room.
Yeah.
when we've got this.
It's so much easier. Feels so much more comforting in a sense.
Yeah. So that's one way.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry, that made me think of something crazy. Tell me if this is crazy.
Oh boy.
Do you think, okay, so in this passage, it talks about oppression, like how we're oppressed, or how people can be like oppressed by others who have power. Do you think there's a way in which our phones could be oppressing us? Because they, in a sense, like there's people with power that are using us as a commodity through our phones. Or maybe that's crazy, but it just made me think, like, we're the ones a lot of times being used. Like,
we
look at this passage and we're so offended by the possibility of anyone being oppressed. Like, when you think about sex trafficking, like, we think about how broken and awful it is that people are being oppressed in that way. And that should break our hearts. And then it's obviously so different. I'm not comparing the two, but I wonder if there's a sense in which we're being used and we're not awake to that reality.
Wow. Well, I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a crazy thought at all. I think maybe the difference is that we have the power to put it down.
Yes. Yeah.
We just have to wake up to it and understand, like having conversations like this and be like, wow, maybe this thing and everyone behind it is really, it is using me. Yeah. My attention is the target here.
Yes. Yeah.
And
yeah. So, and I think that's probably another way the world, like you just said, that is one of the main ways the world isolates us, is through our phones. And then think about, how does the devil isolate us?
Let me come back to that.
Yeah.
Because I just want to, I think it's worth saying, you mentioned, human trafficking. That is a very lonely thing. I don't know from experience, but I have to imagine that would be very isolating.
Yes.
And I think that's a part of what Solomon's saying in this text. So before I just talk about like how maybe the world is isolating me, I think that the world is also isolating people with just the brokenness and the darkness, and whether it be just powerful governments or regimes, dictators that are kind of like, that are using people, like that drives them like into their homes, into hiding and underground, like just whatever it may be, that's an isolating thing.
Yes.
And I think that's what Solomon was looking around and seeing, that like there are weaker people who are being, they're being used by the strong. And what he's seeing is that there's no one to comfort them, meaning that's a really lonely place to be. So I just wanted to make sure I hit that.
Yeah. And that reminds me of what is so beautiful about the fact that our church family is going to Mexico to bring hope to that specific type of circumstance where people have been living in fear and isolation and oppression. And our church family, who God has uniquely wired for the opposite of that, to be so known and to be so connected to one another, we're getting to take that hope and that picture of the gospel to them.
Yes.
And so I'm so excited about our church family going there and bringing hope to that really specific injustice.
Yes. Okay. So you asked about the devil.
Yes.
The devil.
The devil.
The enemy totally wants to expose us. We've talked about it before, like you see it in the animal kingdom, and they sort of the apex predators are always looking for the straggler from the herd, you
Yep.
know, the one who's wandered off, the one who might be injured or is older or is just or young and just has managed to isolate themselves. Like that's the one that the predators prey on.
Yeah.
And that's how our enemy wants to destroy us. He wants to devour us. He's going to get us isolated and alone. Maybe it's just thinking like that we're alone in whatever it is that we're going through.
Yes.
Or it's like, or literally just driving us toward like loneliness. Because I don't know, I'm just thinking about different factors. Like when we travel, you know, for work perhaps, and we're alone, like, I know this is a thing for people who have to travel for work, and it can be lonely, and that's when the enemy begins to prey on us. Probably same thing for those spouses who are left at home while the other spouse is working. Like there's an element of like, I'm going to prey on your fears and your loneliness, and I'm going to begin to like draw you away, you know, with temptation or whatever it may be, so that I can, you know, trap you.
Yes. Yeah. And I think one of his major schemes is to isolate you by like just speaking lies to you about who you are and about how other people view you. I think that can often sound like that type of friendship is not worth the risk. Like the devil will whisper that lie to you of like, you'll just get hurt again. Don't go for that again. It's too risky. Don't do that.
Yes.
Or you're not actually wanted. I think that's such a huge lie that people are told by the enemy is like, they don't want, you're not of value to them. They don't want to be friends with you. Like don't try for that. And so I think it's helpful to be aware of what lie the enemy is like, what is his default lie he tries to get you to believe when it comes to this. 'Cause I think everyone has something, and we want to be a church that's not making agreements with the enemy on those things, of just like, be aware of what that's going to sound like and be quick to be like, no, I'm not going to agree with that. I'm not going to believe that.
Yeah. I mean, like I just recently was struggling with something, and I was needing to tell someone, and there was like this little hitch. There was this little hiccup, this whatever it was, this like pause, this like don't hit send, kind of like don't wait. Are you sure you want to do this? And it was what it felt like and smelled like and seemed like. Was it like, what will they think of you? You know, like then you'll be exposed. Like you really aren't enough. And I'm like, wait a second. That's the father of lies speaking. That's not the Lord warning me like, hey, don't let a brother in Christ in on your struggle. Right? Like,
he
hello.
wouldn't say that,
Right? Like, so, and what it reminded me of, if we can do this, is 1 John chapter 4.
Okay.
I wanted to read this. So John's talking about how God is love in chapter 4. And he says, so we have come to know and to believe the love that God has for us. God is love, and whoever abides in love abides in God, and God abides in him. He goes on to say in verse 18, and this is a familiar verse, there is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. For fear has to do with punishment, and whoever fears has not been perfected in love. So the reality is, I didn't need to fear like sharing my vulnerability with a brother who I know loves me. If I were to fear that, it would be that in some way I would be afraid that I would be punished for being weak.
Yep.
And well, let's be honest, like that is a tactic of the enemy. It's a tactic of the world, and in our flesh we do this to people.
Yeah.
And we should say that, and we should repent of that, and we should be more aware of that. That true love is not going to is not punishing someone for struggling.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah. And even like replace the word punish with withdraw. I think that's another part of the fear is like, will they withdraw from me if they know me.
Yeah. Yes. All of a sudden, like, oh, yeah. Sorry, I'm distracted because I'm thinking right now about my kids at home who would be like, yeah, bookmark that, Dad. Perfect love, no punishment. Let's remember that. Well, that's not. This is like in the context of the gospel here. This is like God is not going to destroy you.
Yeah.
You don't need to fear him. He has loved you with perfect love, and that love will not be broken by your shortcomings, even your sin, because Jesus paid for that sin. And so there may be consequences for that sin. There may be earthly consequences, but there will not be eternal ones.
Yes.
And he will not drive you away. And he will not leave you alone. And so we need to model that kind of love to the best of our ability through the power of the Spirit with one another.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Every time you do get to model that and you get to look that brother or sister in the eyes and say, like, I know this ugly thing about you and I still love you. I'm not going to withdraw or punish you. Like, you're getting to be a tangible representation of what God's love is like. And I feel like every time you get to have that experience, your heart and your whole being is just further convinced of what God's love is like. Because that is insane that his love is like that. It makes no sense to us. So our flesh and the world and the devil are constantly going to be trying to convince us, no, God is annoyed with you. No, he is going to withdraw. I bet he will punish you. I bet he's frustrated with you. Like, you should be embarrassed. Like, it's going to whisper all of that. But when we get to embody to one another, no, that's not the love that we have. That's not how we love each other, and that's not how God loves us. It's like, oh yeah, it convinces us. And that's what Engage the Heart is. Like, right, we can't talk about all this without talking about that. Like, that's what we're seeking to practice and experience with one another in Engage the Heart, because there's no fear in love. We don't have to fear being honest and confessing, because God's not going anywhere and our community of brothers and sisters aren't going anywhere.
Yes.
And it's so freeing and so healing when we experience that.
And that is so countercultural.
Yes.
And that is so gospel.
Yes.
And gosh, we need that. And I want us to be that.
Yes.
Like, that's what I'm calling us to. Like, that's what God's called me to. He's called all of us to this type of community. And when we're willing to get in it, and it's messy and it's vulnerable, it's also beautiful and secure.
Yeah, it's how the world will know, like, that Jesus is real. This is something we talk about a lot. I think it's in John 17, the high priestly prayer, when he's like, they'll know that you're my disciples by how you love one another, and like your oneness, your unity, the security, the intimacy, the staying that you have with one another will convince the world that I'm really God.
Yeah.
And so there's something like gospel impact missional about us knowing one another really deeply and staying despite the ickiness that we know about each other.
Yeah.
Let's talk about seasons of life.
Seasons of...
Is that a song?
Seasons of Love.
Oh, is that a song?
It's from a musical. You wouldn't know it, Maggie. I
wouldn't know.
Because you don't like musicals.
That's true. All right. Last week on the podcast, we talked about seasons of life a little bit and some unique features of each season. Let's talk about what this deep friendship might look like in some unique seasons. So talk a little bit about what has shifted for you in friendship, going from littles, that stage of life, and now into teenagers. What's maybe different about this season as it pertains to maintaining deep friendships?
Well, I wouldn't call myself an expert here. I feel like I'm just a user in it. Like, I'm very much in the midst of this season, and I can say that in some ways it's harder to have friendship in this season, and if you're in a season with littles, you're thinking, what are you talking about? Like, you're gonna have all this time. Your kids are
your kids
more
can drive,
independent. Your kids can drive. Shut up,
what
John.
are you doing?
Yeah, get off your butt, right? Like, no, it's harder because they're busy, and for what I think that when your kids are young, they're like these little connectors, and they like. You end up connecting, even if it's like, you had a really busy week at work and there was things going on. Maybe you even had to travel, but then on Saturday you had to go to dadgum birthday party, you know,
You
and
saw your
while all the
people.
kids are jumping around on the bounce house, you saw your people and you were hanging out by the cake, you know, or whatever.
Yep.
And there's connection there. And just like our kids are just so good at that. Like we met so many of our neighbors early on when we moved here, because our kids were at an age where they were just out all the time and playing with the other kids, and you know, and it's just like you build these relationships that way. And then as life gets, in some ways it does get busier, because like now your day doesn't end at like 7 or 8 o'clock when your kids, like you bathe them and put them to bed. They're like, they never go to bed, you know, and like, and then they come in your room and they want to sit on the bed and talk, and you know, and it's 10 o'clock at night, and you have to cherish those moments, right? So I don't know. It's kind of like all of a sudden, like you have all this time, air quotes, and yet you also start to realize I don't have much time with them.
Yeah.
And so that's different, and maybe they're more involved in activities or whatever it is that's going on, and so I don't know. For whatever reason, it can be harder in this season.
Do you think there's almost a level of like relearning how to be a friend again? Because for so long, your friendships were like interrupted by and surrounded by children. So there was like, it's kind of difficult to like go really deep. We should try, but like when you're going to get interrupted 50 times and when there's kids around, like your conversations can be a little bit choppy, I imagine. And so you kind of get used to like doing friendship in that setting. But then when there's none of that around, you're kind of like just with your friend. It can be kind of like, well, what do we do now? Is there any of that in this season where you're like, this is just a different way of interacting? Like it probably has the potential to be even more intimate, but it may be scarier because you're not having any of that like chaos around you.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it like that, but there may be something to that. And maybe it sort of programs you almost in all of that to sort of like just associate friendship with a surface level kind of like birthday party level connection.
Yes, just chit-chatting.
And then like when that's not really there anymore, you're like, oh, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that would be a case for like even in the birthday party phase, when your kids are younger and they're connecting you with play dates at the park or birthday parties or like teams, you know, whatever it may be, that's not enough. Like that time is good, but you still need to like find ways to know one another.
Yes.
Right. That's how friendship is really formed.
Yeah. I think another way friendship is formed is by like picking someone up when they've fallen down. Like that very act of like getting in the trenches with them is something that's so bonding. And this is something we talked about at our member meeting, that on our member check-in survey, one of the like primary ways people talked about how they experienced being part of a caring family, like we just saw it over and over and over and over and over, was meals and offering to help with childcare and checking in when you're sick. It's just like really simple but really powerful ways that we have picked one another up when we've fallen down. So talk a little bit about like what goes through your mind, or how do you help someone when you notice a brother has fallen in a sense, he's in a hard phase. How do you help pick him up? What does that look like?
Well, it may look like, gosh, this is going to sound so simple, but it's like when you think about him, reach out to him.
Yes.
You know, instead of just like thinking about him, be like, man, he's in a rough spot. But like when he comes to mind, you know, reach out to him. Say, hey, you came to my mind today, and I just want to remind you, you're not alone. You know, I know this is hard right now, and I'm with you.
Yes.
And I'm praying for you.
Yeah.
In fact, someone just did that very recently to me, like knew something and then like thought about me and called me to check on me.
And you felt so loved.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't feel alone. You know?
Yeah.
So that was big.
Yeah. I think there's so many things where it's like your friends can't actually like fix whatever it is a lot of times. Like sometimes you're in a hard season and those circumstances are not going to change maybe, but it's still hard.
Yeah.
And your friends can't change the circumstances for you, but when you just feel less alone in those circumstances, it feels a billion times lighter. And I think there's a lot of power in just doing something. Like, I'm guilty of being like, how can I help, or what do you need? And people don't always have the capacity to even answer that question or know what they need. And we felt so supported and loved in a recent, like, challenging season of people just doing something just because they just had to. You know, you ever feel that feeling where you're like, I don't know how to help, but this is something I thought of, so I just did it, and I hope it helps. And so we've had people just like sneak into our house and put freezer meals in our freezer, and they're just like, we're not asking, we're just putting this meal in your freezer. Just things like that, where it's just like, I'm not gonna ask, I'm just gonna pick you up, I'm just gonna get in this with you. And that is such a picture of the gospel, right? Like, Jesus just got in the mess. Like, he became a human and entered our mess and picked us up. And so that's why in all of this, I think we look to Jesus, who is the truest friend. He's the only permanent friend that will never fail us, never disappoint us, and will always comfort us.
Let me jump on that before you like start to wrap this up like you always do. I'm like, I have one more thing to say. wait. Comfort us. Solomon is looking at the world, and he's brokenhearted because there was no one to comfort them, right? Like, in the brokenness of the world, there was no one to comfort them, right? And in our loneliness, you know, there can be no one to comfort us. And so Jesus steps in as the one who comes to bring comfort. The New Testament says that God is the God of comfort. I think that's 2 Corinthians chapter 1. And then Jesus talks about the Spirit coming as the comforter. And so we have been given the Spirit of Christ to bring comfort to us in our need, but also that spirit of comforting is in us to comfort one another. And so don't underestimate the power of the comforter in you. I think sometimes we can believe this lie of like, I don't know what to say, I don't know how to help them, it's so sad, but what can I do? You have the God of all comfort inside of you. And so you just showing up and your presence is bringing the comforter with you, and that matters, and it changes things for people. All right. Anything else? All right, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll be back next week. See ya.